Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of the School Snack Series live videos. We are back today in the Kids Health Revolution headquarters, the kitchen, where we cook up better health for our kids, one recipe at a time, right? And this recipe today is a superfood jello. So kids like jello, most kids do anyway, right? Hi Elizabeth, nice to see you. And oftentimes even the healthier versions are still pretty packed with sugar because they're made with fruit juices. So today we're doing a little bit of something to kind of mix this up a little bit, still give us some really great flavor, but really boost that nutrient density. So we've got some awesome immune supporting stuff going on in here, some good vitamins. We can experiment with it. We'll talk about some different varieties you can do, all kinds of good stuff that you can throw into this jello, because when we get back into the kitchen and we start making a few simple recipes ourselves, this is where we start to take the steps to building that foundation of good health for our kids, right? The foundation of their health is the food that they eat and the health of their gut. So the more that we can do right here in the kitchen, the better off our kids are going to be. Now, I do have to apologize for 1 second. I know that out here on Kids Health Revolution Facebook page, you can't quite see the dirty, well, actually they're not dirty dishes, they're clean dishes, but you guys in my group, you've got a little bit of a view of the stacked dishes over there. It's been a busy couple of days around here with kind of crazy play dates going on and all sorts of fun stuff, and I was racing home today from the grocery store and didn't get time to put the dishes away before I started hanging out with you guys. So I figured it was more important to actually be here than to have the perfectly tidy kitchen, because it's reality, right? This is what it's like to be a mom and be working and be in the kitchen trying to cook up healthy snacks. So who else have we got here? Aram, hi, and Sean, hello, nice to see you. I'm glad you could join us. So, if you're just tuning in, we are making Superfood Jello today, which is a great way to get some good nutrition into our kids in a way that they like it. So this is not naked coconuts, it is my sun tea. So what I have used, and the sun tea is going to be the base for our Jello instead of juice. And what I've used in this recipe is this puka, however you like to say it. It's the elderberry and echinacea brand, so really good for immune health, right? We've got all kinds of good stuff. Hi, Stephanie, in there that are going to help boost immunity. So what I do is I just take 4 cups of water in a glass jar. I put 3 tea bags in there and I stick it out in the sun for about an hour, and that steeps my tea very nicely. So then once it is steeped, I'm just going to pour it into a saucepan. Nice big saucepan. And this idea for using tea, I have to give credit where credit is due, comes from the fabulous elixir bar at the Light Cellar here in Calgary. So if you're fortunate enough that you live in Calgary, you could go and check that out. And they also have this wonderful book. It is on Amazon, so you that aren't here in Calgary can get your hands on this, Elixir Life, and they mix up some wonderful, really tasty beverages and elixirs of all kinds using superfoods. And one of the things that they do is use tea, mushroom teas, chaga and reishi teas as the base for a lot of their drinks, for all of their drinks, in fact. So that's where I came up with the idea of using tea as the base for Jello, and I gotta tell you, it works really, really well. I'm just gonna pop this on the heat so it can warm up while I'm babbling away here. One caveat, you can use any kind of tea that you like. I would say probably more fruity tea would be better, but if you do have a child that has an autoimmune condition, as I do, you need to use a little bit of precaution when using the elderberry and echinacea tea, because it is immune boosting. It is not immune modulating, but it is immune boosting. So we have to be a little bit careful with our kiddos, or if you yourself happen to have an autoimmune disorder, that we don't want to ramp up the immune system too much, right? So I have found that my child can tolerate this as long as I'm not feeding him hordes and hordes of it. So if I make a recipe like this and he gets, you know, a piece or two a day, then he's good. If I were to feed him, you know, a big bowl of it, that might be a bit of a problem for his immune system. So, you know, that's just something to keep in mind. So we're going to warm up that tea on the burner. This particular tea comes with licorice root in it. So it already has a little bit of sweetness to it. If you're using a different type of tea that doesn't have the sweetness added, you could try adding a little bit of stevia to it, the green leaf stevia powder to help with the sweetness. And we are adding in some honey as well. Now I'm just going to adjust this one camera here, maybe so you can see a little bit better without chopping my head off. I don't know, we'll see. So again, sweetness is of course to your preference. So if your child is just starting out and they're used to the packaged Jello that comes all pre-made with all the processed sugars and the artificial colors and all that stuff, you might start them out with more sweetener in this, and that would be fine. And then over time, just be cutting back on that sweetener so that they get used to tasting more natural tasting foods instead of always these really over palatable tasting foods. So Jello of course requires gelatin. So in this bowl I have 3.5 tablespoons of grass-fed gelatin. Now it is important, you want to try and get grass-fed gelatin. If you're not able to have pork products, I know that Vital Proteins does some great bovine source gelatin as well. So for a fairly stable cube-like gelatin, you can go with the 3.5 tablespoons like that. If you want it to set up even harder than that so that you can put it in some fun little molds like these, I like to make these sometimes, you'll need to add in 4 tablespoons, so it's a bit of a harder gel for those. So you can do whatever you like with that. Now, I usually put a little bit of my tea in here just to help it bloom before we add it into the tea mixture. So I usually do this when it's cold. I forgot this morning, so that's okay. So you're just going to put about 1/3 cup in with your gelatin, and then just give it a little bit of a mix up so it blooms, is what they call it. And what that is it just starts to soften the gelatin a little bit before you add it in and melt it in with your hot tea. So I'm just allowing that tea to get good and hot on the stove at the moment, and then I'm going to bring it over here where you guys can see, and we're going to finish up the recipe. Now we're going to add in, of course, some more extra nutrition into this. These things are optional. But you don't have to add them in, but they do amp up the nutrient profile a little bit. So gelatin already has some protein in it, and it's good gut healing protein, but we're also going to add in a little bit more protein to help balance out the sugar and make this a really whole snack. And so we're going to add in some collagen powder here. So I like the Vital Proteins brand, and I just use the scoop that comes with it. We're going to add in a couple of those scoops or a couple of tablespoons if you have it. Again, that's optional. And then this is also optional. We're going to add in a tablespoon of this antioxidant berry blast. It's got some great stuff in here. It's just a berry powder. It's got acai berry, blueberry, camu, and makai. I'm not sure if I'm even saying that one right. But just 1 teaspoon of this has 64% of the vitamin C that you need in a day. So this is really going to amp up the nutrition in this little bit of Jello. Right? Who would have thought it? Jello that's healthy. All right, this should be good and warm now, I think. It's just about to a boil, so that's about right. If I can find a whisk here, I'd be happy. So we're just going to put the gelatin into our hot liquid here, our hot tea, and just give it a stir until it completely dissolves. Now this is the important step. You do want to make sure it completely dissolves in there, otherwise you're going to have grainy little bits in your Jello, and I know a lot of kids probably aren't going to like that so much. It doesn't take long though, so just give it a little bit of a whisk. Now normally when I'm doing this not on camera, where I'm not trying to hurry it through so you guys get to see the whole thing before you rush off with the rest of your day, I would let this cool down a little bit more from this really hot boiling point to add in my honey so that it's just warm enough to melt the honey. And that way you really manage to keep a lot of the enzymes and good stuff that's active in the honey, in the raw honey. You keep that alive by not overheating it. So, you know, you can take that extra step if you have the time, it's nice. If not, then just go ahead and add it straight in. So we're gonna put that in now. You could use maple syrup as well if you wanted, if you prefer that to honey, but honey is keeping it GAPS compliant. Now, let's chat a little bit about the GAPS diet and gelatin, because there is a common misconception that gelatin is permitted on the GAPS diet. And technically, when you get into the full GAPS diet, it is. Things like Jello and GAPS marshmallows, things like that. But if you're doing the introductory diet, Dr. Natasha Campbell-McBride has recently come out and said that she thinks it's better to avoid using gelatin for the introductory diet. She finds it too processed and prefers that you be getting your gut healing nutrients from actual meat stock rather than using something so processed, which is totally cool. However, one thing I will say is I know that sometimes we have our kids on the introductory diet and a birthday party or something comes up. So that would be a great time to make an exception, and instead of allowing them to have the processed cakes or whatever, you know, might be going on at the birthday parties, they could have some GAPS marshmallows or Jello like this using the gelatin. And then once they transition into the full GAPS diet, then they're more able to have a treat like this, because it's about finding ways that you can increase your child's nutrition, that you can remove a lot of the foods that are harming their health, so the processed sugars and a lot of these foods, and finding ways that are fun and creative for our kids, and foods that they're going to enjoy eating. And sometimes that means that we're using some of these more convenience products, things that are easy for us to make as parents when we're really busy and on the go. So there has to be this balance to it as well. So into here, into our hot tea, we're gonna add our collagen powder. So I'm just gonna throw in 2 scoops of that. You could put a little bit more in if you wanted to, or again, you can completely skip it if you don't wanna put it in, if you don't have it at home and you wanna make up this recipe, because it's a nice hot day treat too. This is a really nice snack to have when it's hot out, because boy, I tell you, it's hot around here this past week. 31 degrees, which is hot for us, and it's supposed to be up to 36 or 37, I hear it, by the end of the week, which is crazy for this area. And this would be a tablespoon of this antioxidant berry powder. I'm just gonna approximate that because I know that I've not got very much left in there. You could do this with a medicinal mushroom base as well. That would work. The berry just gives it a really nice flavor. My son and his friend yesterday, when I was whipping this up to show you, were over. He had a play date, and I had to stop them from eating too much of it. They were really enjoying it. So, you know, I like when I have kids over that aren't on a gut healing protocol, and I make a snack that they enjoy. It's always nice to see, because then I know, you know, that we can get the kiddos that are just transitioning over to embrace these types of recipes as well, right? So again, this is optional, but just to make it pretty and to boost the fiber content, we're going to throw in some fresh fruit chopped up too. So you could just pour this into your molds and have straight up Jello without taking this step, or you can go ahead and add in some fruit. The ones that I made yesterday, I had peaches and what did I put in? Cherries. So that's what I had on hand, and that's what went into the Jello. Today, I found some lovely berries at the market. So that's what's gonna go in. So whatever fruit you happen to have in your fridge will work just fine. Now, there's a caveat to that. Pineapple apparently should not go in, raw pineapple. Canned apparently is okay, but we'd rather avoid that anyway. So pineapple and kiwi, the enzymes in them can prevent your Jello from setting up, something I read and I didn't know the other day, so good to know. So this is a little baking dish that I have. If you want to do the cubes like I have here, these nice little cube shapes, sorry you guys can't see those, then you can just pour it into a dish like this, and once it sets we cut it up. The other option is to add that extra tablespoon of gelatin and make some fun little molds. And the other thing that I really love to do, and this is perfect for school snacks, is using these little mason jars. So they're sort of like those Jello cups that you see at Costco or at the grocery stores. But these, of course, are Superfood ones. They don't even have the plastic. They're in these beautiful little mason jars. So you would just pour it in there, put your fruit in, and with a lid, it's all ready to go in the lunch kit. So that's one of my favorite ways to do it for the lunch kits. But today we're just gonna throw it down into this pan. So I just arrange my fruit in there, kind of evenly spread it out. It's about, I don't know, 1.5 cups of fruit, but again, if you want more fruit in there, throw it in there, go crazy. If you want a little bit less, that's okay too. It's all up to you in terms of how you make this. As long as you've got the right ratios of liquid to gelatin, you can play around with this as much or as little as you want. So we're just going to give this one last stir to make sure everything is incorporated, and in it goes. Okay, and I see that a little bit of my gelatin is stuck to the bottom, so I'm just going to take a second to reincorporate that. That can happen when you're leaving the gelatin. I let it bloom probably a little bit too long as I was chatting away. So you just have to make sure you give it a good stir. Okay, and I don't know if you can see that very well out there in camera land, but we've got a nice full dish. You can't see it over there, but I can't tip it because it'll spill. Anyway, we have a beautiful full dish, and once we've set it in the fridge, it's going to go into the fridge for probably about 2 hours to set up, especially if it's a good full pan like that. If you're doing these small little jars, they're going to set up quicker, as will the molds. They'll set up a little bit quicker. And then when it comes out, we just slice it into these beautiful little cubes. So you can send these to school as well. Just cut into the cubes. I would put them in a little stainless steel container, and they can be just eaten with their fingers, just like that. It's got such a beautiful little light taste to it with the tea in there. It's not overly poweringly sweet, and the beautiful little bits of fruit in there. It's really enjoyable, and I'm not a Jello fan. I've never liked it, but I do kind of like it made with the tea and a lot less sugar. Really good stuff this way. So that, really quick, is Superfood Jello that your kids will be really thrilled to find in their summer camp lunches. And hey, school's coming up, so this is a great one to keep on hand and to make. You could whip up a big batch of this at the beginning of the week and portion it out throughout the week for your kids. If you'd like the written down recipe for this Superfood Jello, make sure that you join us over on the Kids Health Revolution private group, because that's where I'm posting the actual recipes themselves, and then you will also receive it directly into your inbox if you prefer to have it that way by going to kidshealthrevolution.com and joining the community there. If you haven't done it already and you're in the group, you should consider doing that, because there's lots of other great resources over on the community page there too. You'd have access to my 20 fabulous freezer meals, which are a great way to prepare for fall coming up. There's a leaky gut quiz, there's a foods cheat sheet, all kinds of really good stuff to help you out on this journey to taking those steps so that you can start building the foundation for better health for your kids, because that's what it's all about, right? We're here, you're watching this because you want to improve your child's health. So join us on the private page, join us in the community, get all those free resources, get these great school snack series recipes straight into your inbox, and download them from the community page, however you like to roll. Great questions, great community going on in this group. I love it. We're sharing ideas, we're helping each other out, because you know what? other moms and dads who are on this journey have a wealth of information to share, and they are so great at supporting people as we're starting out or as we're further along this journey and we run into a roadblock and we have questions. It's a really great place to be, and I'm really enjoying the great community feel that we've got going on over here, guys. So thanks so much for joining me, and thank you to everybody out in Kids Health Revolution page world. We will be back next week, Thursday at 12 o'clock with another school snack series live video. If you have ideas for it, please pass them on to me. If you have any questions of any kind, post them below, and I'm happy to respond as soon as I can. Take good care, everybody. Bye-bye. Oh. Hi, Armando.